Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Local Review Body of the 16th of February 2022. I can confirm that the meeting has been properly called and is quorate. Can I first ask members to appoint a chair for the meeting?
Could I nominate Councillor Mickey?
I was just going to do the same for you, actually, but my mic was switched off. Okay.
Are you happy to take that nomination, Councillor McKee? Yes?
Yes, I'll take it on. Thank you. Okay. Chair's approval for members' remote participation. I'm quite happy to accept people working remotely and participating in this meeting. Thank you all very much. Sediment to Claire.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm aware of one apology today from Councillor McClelland. Currently, as well as yourself, all 4 members are attending on Teams.
Ian Blake. I seen Ian Blake's name there earlier on, and Ivor's there.
Yeah, so everybody else is on Teams. Councillor Blake, Hislop, obviously yourself, and Thompson are all on Teams. Apologies from Councillor McClelland.
Okay, thank you all very much. Have we any declarations of interest? No, thank you very much. We'll move to item 4. Land adjacent to Haven Lodge, Stairhaven. Refusal of planning permission in principle for erection of dwelling house 21/1301 BIP. Thank you. Who's the officer?
Chair, would you like me to take you through the papers?
If you don't mind, Claire, please. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Right, just to take you through the papers as usual for an LRB, you have the standard documents in your papers, the notice of review, the report on handling, observation of the appointed officer, planning application form, decision notice, relevant extracts from the LDP2, photos of application site and locality. The grounds of refusal on pages 78 to 79 of your papers. First being the proposal is contrary to policy H3 of Dumfries and Galloway Council Local Development Plan 2, the accompanying supplementary guidance on housing in the countryside and Scottish planning policy, which merit the erection of new houses in the countryside only in special circumstances, and none of these circumstances apply in this case. In particular, the proposed dwelling house would not relate well or accord with the established layout and character of the small building group, and would also result in an unacceptable form of urban development leading to an incremental development into the open countryside along a roadside with no natural topographical finish point. The proposed development would therefore fail to accord with or enhance the character of the group. The second being that the proposal would result in the loss of good quality agricultural soil falling within land capability for agricultural classification 3.2 soil, and no justification has been provided as to why the development must be located on this land and not on less good quality land. As such, the proposal is contrary to Dumfries and Galloway Council Local Development Plan Policy 2, Policy NE13 Agricultural Soil. Requested method of determination. Following procedure as an assessment of the review documents only with no further procedure. Grounds stated in the notice of review. In summary, the development would consist of the erection of a single dwelling house well related to the small building group of Stairhaven, which is well related to its landscape setting, is an appropriate scale and design, and would provide a low carbon house and lifestyle. With regard to the loss of a small portion of agricultural land, the applicant has no desire or wish to grow farm crops in the location, as has plenty of scope to grow farm crops elsewhere. However, the development provides sufficient storage space both within the house and a separate garage building to store preserved food that the clients intend in time to produce for themselves. Their intention is to produce fruit and vegetables and keep hens for eggs to avoid reliance on meat and other more carbon-intensive protein sources. For the benefit of doubt, the watercourse ditch with fence either side, as described on the submitted drawings, is 2.4 metres wide and 1.8 metres deep, with a watercourse at the bottom heavily overgrown with native heavy-rooted vegetation fenced on either side with a stop-proof fence. This is clearly a natural scar on the landscape, as described in supplementary guidance. Ribbon development will be supported where there is an existing stop. The neighbouring dwellings are all fenced with stop-proof fences, as would be the application site. The application site provides a natural stop and is ribbon development as described in supplementary guidance. The scale of the building is appropriate with surrounding buildings. There is a natural stop scarring the building group northwest site boundary by way of a watercourse ditch which is fenced either side, heavily overgrown on both sides. Many other building groups have been extended in a similar way, including nearby at Auchenmeg. Elderly parents work on the farm and a house would be nearby to enable them with the running of the farm. And the Scottish Government are committed to provide more affordable houses and sustainable houses. If all the relevant development plan policies in your papers, OP1, OP2, H3, NE13, IN8, IN9, T2, and the supplementary guidance being that for design quality and placemaking, developer contributions, housing in the countryside, and small buildings groups list. The main issues for the local review body to consider are: does the proposal comply with the terms of the development plan in principle? In particular, does the proposal meet with the terms of LDP 2 policy H3 in principle? Does the policy accord with the guidance set out in the adopted LDP 2 supplementary guidance relating to housing in the countryside in principle? Specifically, has it been satisfactorily demonstrated that the proposed new dwelling house would meet the tests set out within LDP policy H3 and adopted LDP 2 supplementary guidance related to the housing in the countryside in relation to the identification of small building groups? Should this site be considered as part of a small building group? Further, is the site within or well related to the nearest small building group? Does the ditch form a defensible boundary to the site in accordance with the supplementary guidance relating to the countryside? Turning to LDP 2 policy NE13, is there any justifiable reason to depart from the terms of that policy, which provides that developments proposed in areas of good quality agricultural soil such as this will only be supported when they conform to the spatial strategy of the plan and there is no alternative unless good quality land? And if it is not considered that the proposal accords with the terms of the development plan, are there a set of material considerations of sufficient weight to justify a departure from the terms of the development plan? And if so, what reasons would members wish to give for such a decision if it were considered that the proposal departs from the terms of the development plan? If members are minded to not uphold the appointed officer's decision and instead grant planning permission in principle for this proposal, what set of conditions and reasons would members wish to see attached, if any? And if members are instead minded to vary the terms of the appointed officer's decision, what changes to the specific reasoning for the decision would be required? So, having outlined the documents within your papers, it falls to the LRB to determine whether...
Thank you, Claire. Is that it?
No, not quite. I was just about to set out what options you had available to you, if that's okay, Chair. Yes? You've got the following options. You can decide you have sufficient information to determine the review today, request further information in the form of written representations. The LRB would be required to state precisely the information it is seeking, who would provide it. You can resolve to hold a hearing, again specifying who would be invited to speak and on what matters. Resolve to hold a site visit, accompanied or unaccompanied, and that can be done in conjunction with any of the above, but would not allow a decision to be made today. And if the LRB resolves it has sufficient information and no further procedures required, the LRB has the full powers to uphold, reverse or vary a determination. The decision notice would include a statement of the terms in which the planning authority has decided the case reviewed. So you have a planning advisor present at your meeting in relation to this case. It is confirmed that they have not had any... What's happened there? Are we...
Oh, you're back on.
Well, we're back on. Just telling...
Oh, you're on silent.
I was just telling you that you've got a planning advisor present in relation to this case. It's confirmed that they have not had any involvement in this case. They were not the case officer or the appointed officer for the application. They're purely here to provide independent advice as needed on matters of planning policy, law or process to the local review body. And you've also got a solicitor present here on Teams who will act independently if the local review body require any specific advice on matters of law. So hopefully you've got all that, and if members are clear, no further clarification is required. I'll ask the Chair to lead the debate and in first instance to lead the LRB through the papers together to decide if you have sufficient information to make a determination today.
Right, thank you very much, Claire. Anyone any questions for Claire before we start? No? Okay. Now, given there's a lot of papers here, can we go through section at a time? Notice of review. Can we show these pictures up on the screen at all, please? Fiona, can you do that, or can Claire do that?
I've got the presentation here. I can go through the slides.
If you could do, please, that would be helpful, I think. Aye.
Do you want me to run through the slides, Chair?
Yes, please.
I could have the first slide, please, Fiona. Okay, so this is the first photograph. These are the same photographs as you'll find on pages 97 to 100 of your papers. There's also a location plan on page 71 and an aerial image on page 24, which should help with your orientation. But this first photograph is a view from within the site, looking southwest towards Luce Bay. You have a stone dyke which delineates the curtilage of Haven Lodge to the left, which is currently the westernmost house within the small building group. Can I have the next slide? This second photograph is a view from within the site looking northwest, adjacent to the C28W public road. This is from the front of the site, looking away from the small building group. So you have Luce Bay and the public road to your left. Can I have the next slide? This is a view looking northeast towards the rear of the site. It shows the open nature of the site and the agricultural land beyond, and the lack of existing defensible boundaries to the rear of the site. The next slide, please. This is a view from within the site looking southeast again towards Haven Lodge, and it shows a change in topography and the mature landscaping which lies within its curtilage. And the established small building group lies beyond and below this feature. Next slide, please. This is a view from within the site looking northwest, so away from the small building group again. It highlights the insignificance of the distant watercourse, which the applicant has claimed is well defined in a natural landscape feature. The next slide, please. This is a view which is taken from a point close to the western boundary of the application site. This is a view looking north towards the site from the public road, and it shows the fenced watercourse on the left-hand side. Next slide, please. This is a view, again looking northwest from within the site, showing the path and the nature of the existing fenced watercourse. And the last slide, please. This final photograph is taken from the car park on the edge of the bay to the south, and this is a view showing the change in the elevation and the extent of existing mature trees and vegetation, which lie within the residential curtilage associated with Haven Lodge, which is the dwelling just to the right of the photograph there, that currently forms a natural topographical stop to the Stairhaven small building group. And the application site itself is located in an elevated position beyond the trees, in the middle ground of the photograph, and that's to the northwest.
Thanks for that. The difficulty I find is where are they going to put a house in there? Is it the other side of the trees?
Yes, that's right. It's beyond those trees and the stone dike, which can just be seen at lower level under those trees. So,
yeah, aye. Right. That creates difficulty for me anyway. Anybody any questions on the photographs? Ivor, Councillor Hislop.
Could we go back to the ones of the water course just for another quick look? Just to see if there's one that actually runs up the water course to show us what width the water course is and how deep it is, and is there any idea, is the water course a ditch, which is a sort of man-made thing, or is it a stream running from higher ground out to somewhere? Just for that clarification.
Is it Lindsay that's doing the talking, please?
yes, there's not any photographs which show the line of the ditch or the watercourse itself. The depth and the width of the watercourse was described within the applicant's notice of review. I think it was 2.4 metres wide by approximately 1.8 metres deep. The aerial image, I think on page 24 of your papers, indicates sort of the line of that watercourse.
Oh, is that this Carron landscape?
I think that's the one. I'm just trying to locate it myself.
Page 24, Lindsay.
Yes, that's the one, Chair.
Is that line behind the houses, is that a fenced area? That's the land behind the houses, it's fenced off, it's a lighter colour.
It would appear to be an agricultural field. The stone dike, which runs along the northwestern boundary of Haven Lodge, appears to continue along that field boundary.
That's fine then, thanks. Anybody else? Councillor Thompson?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, so I'm just looking at that picture of the scar on landscape, and it was just on the back of Councillor Hislop's sort of question about whether it was natural or man-made, but judging by the sort of right angles by which it seems to zigzag, it looks from the aerial picture anyway as if it's probably man-made, or at least has been artificially, changed to follow that course. Would that be correct, or is that just an inference?
It's been there for a long time, and it's the way of moving the water to further up the hill, Stephen. But Lindsay?
Unfortunately, that's not something I'm able to advise on. The information doesn't seem to be in the papers as to whether it's a natural or a man-made feature.
Anything else, Stephen?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else, any questions? No. Right. We'll start on section 2, report and handling. Want to go through that page by page? If there's anything you want to raise, just give us a page number. Paragraphs 4, 7 and 4, 9 refer to the small building groups, proposals, etc. and urban development. And at 412 says page 37, the proposals therefore not in accordance with the development plan. And no material reasons in this instance which justify departing from a development plan, but we'll go through, obviously we'll go through all the paperwork. Any questions? Was it Ivor? Sorry.
It's just for clarification, just for my own, so that I've understood this right. There is a supporting letter in the last section which says that they need the property to be near the farm. I think it was page 27, the supporting letter. There was needed to be near the farm because the parents were in the farm and they're elderly and they need support for the farm work. I take it there was no information given whatsoever to justify an additional worker on the farm or anything to do with a retirement planning process.
Lindsay?
Thank you. Yes, the document 6 on page 27, the supporting statement from the applicant, is dated the 1st of November 2021. It's new information and raises new matters which were not before the case officer at the time the application was considered. There's no exceptional circumstances have been submitted to justify its late submission, and there's no other supporting information in relation to the matters raised within that statement.
They're virtually trying to justify the need of a house on the farm for working purposes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was a case of this had came in afterwards. Thanks for that.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't brought to the attention of the planners when the plans were first sent in. Would that be the case, Lindsay?
Yes, it wasn't before the case officer at the time the application was determined, which was in October 2021. So this letter postdates that, and it was only submitted with the local review case.
So in that case, and Lindsay, where does that leave us? Do we ignore this letter altogether? This supporting statement?
Well, the applicant has not provided any exceptional circumstances as to why it's late and couldn't have been provided at the time of the application. But I see Marcus has some comments to make here.
Okay, Marcus, please.
Well, firstly, just to introduce myself, I'm standing in for Laura today because I'm taking time out. Basically, just to back up what Lindsay has said, interestingly, the applicant in the notification of review states that no new information is being provided, but it's quite clear that new information has been provided, as Lindsay has indicated, and no explanation has been given as to why this information was not available to the planning officer who made the original decision. Since you are reviewing that decision, it wouldn't be appropriate, in the absence of any explanation, to consider this further information.
We should consider it, Marcus.
No, you should not.
No, right. Does that leave us in a position where we could defer it and refer it back to the planning because of this new information, or do we just ignore it?
You could make that decision. You could not consider it at all, because the opportunity was originally given for this information to be provided when the planning application was made, but that opportunity was not taken advantage of. So you can simply proceed on the information that you have before you and disregard this additional information. Or you can, of course, you could, of course, continue the matter if you so desire.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I mean, I was just on that point. I mean, I think at this stage, I think we're probably getting to a point where we'll be deciding whether we've got enough information in front of us to go forward, or if we need specific additional information. But I'm trying to look at this in the sense of a process point of view, so that when the planning application was determined at the time, with the information presented to support the application at the time, that's really, I suppose, I'm really trying to look at it from the point of view of, was there, when the decision was made, was it made based on the proper processes and information as presented to support the application at the time? Anything that's coming after at the moment, I'm just sort of noting as part of what's been presented within this pack as the reasons for review. But I mean, I'm moving towards being happy with the information that we've got in front of us as being enough to go forward to make a determination today. But that's just my view. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
If I could perhaps add, Councillor, I mean, the clue is in the title. It's a review body. You are reviewing the decision of the appointed officer. It's not to really consider matters afresh with all sorts of new information coming in. So it would be appropriate to consider the matter on the basis of the information that the planning officer had, and nothing else which has been introduced at this stage, given that no explanation has been provided for the additional information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hislop?
Can I have clarification on the last part? Because my understanding as a review body, we are doing what the reporter would do. And I've sat in a planning inquiry, and there has been a totally new or a change to the application that came before us as members, and I've had to defend why we didn't agree with the new plan, not the one that was in front of us. So are we here doing the role of the reporter instead of going to the reporter with us? Or are we doing just a review of this?
Well, I would have thought if we're doing a review, that's what we're here for. And that wouldn't be to review new information, which this is regarding their mother and father. Councillor Howie, I'll bring you in a minute, Mark. Councillor Howie. No, he's no one here. I don't know where he come from there. Hey, Marcus.
On the last point by the council, that's a very valid matter. It's a long time since I've dealt with a planning inquiry, and from my experience, they are entirely different situations than these. All I can really do is quote the terms of the legislation, which make it quite clear that when reviewing matters in terms of the relevant section, that you cannot look at any matter which could not have been raised before the time of the review, and that it is not being raised before the time was a consequence of exceptional circumstances. So basically, if there are exceptional circumstances which would require you to look at this additional information, then you could do so, but no exceptional circumstances have been provided, and no explanation has been provided as to why this information was not given to the planning officer who initially considered the application. So in terms of the legislation, there doesn't appear to be much leeway to consider it now.
Thank you for the clarification.
That's fine, Ivor. Good. Right, so we can ignore that. Anybody any other points to raise before we move on? Oh, Right, so we'll move to page 33. Erection of dwelling house, it's a planning permission in principle. Anybody any issues to raise? Marcus, you've got your hand up. Are you wanting back in?
Sorry, my apologies. It should be down now.
You're okay. Recommended decision, page 39. Internal memo, page 41. Scottish Water, page 43. To 46. Town and country planning. Proposed location, erection of dwelling house, page 47. '48. Got pages upside down for some reason. 49. Page 51, 50, 51. Observations of the appointed officer on the applicant agent's notice of review, page 53. 55. Page 57. In the conclusion, 3.2. Consider that a delegated decision to refuse the application was and remains consistent with adopted development plan policy, and that there are no other material considerations of sufficient weight to indicate the primacy of the development plan should be overturned in this case. Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, it was just, just following from the discussion earlier, just on page 55 at 2.3, it probably helpfully just puts in writing what I think we've now sort of gathered, just in terms of the what Marcus had put forward about no exceptional circumstances had been submitted, etc. So maybe that's just is helpful just to, as a sort of go-to reference point in terms of that. So I just found that useful, so I thought it worth highlighting. Thank you.
Thank you. Page 59, planning application form, submitted on 16th of June 2021. Associated plans and supporting information. Page 69, supporting statement. Page 70, got a picture on it. And page 71, you've got a location plan, site plan. Page 73, outlines of the proposed house.
It's now changed. It's now changed. It's now changed to a full.
Section 5, decision letter from Dumfries and Galloway Council, date 25th October 2021. Yeah, that's better. Refusal of planning permission in principle. Page 78 and 79. Page 83 onwards, relevant extracts from Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan 2. Page 95, photos of the application site and the locality. That's the end of all the paperwork. Right, anyone any comments to make? Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I mean, I'm satisfied with the information we've got in front of us, and I would move that we've got sufficient information before us to make a determination on this today.
Thank you, Stephen. I would certainly agree with that. Anybody otherwise minded? No. All right. Anybody want any comments to make? Or do you just want to make a decision? Right, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I mean, I would uphold the original decision based on what we've got in front of us.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, I think looking at this application, I was reading the papers and I was minded to consider the ditch stream as a possible natural stop. But when you actually get the pictures up on the screen and it shows the difference in topography, I don't think there is a significant justification to depart from policy on this one. There's no, as mentioned earlier, that they have mentioned about they need to be there for working on their farm. I don't think there's any agricultural justification information that has been supplied at any time with this, business case. And I don't think it's a requirement for the farmer to retire. There's no justification in that. So I think the officers on this occasion are justified to refuse this, and I would support their decision.
Right, thanks, Ivor. That's right. I think they had the chance to come in with the need of the housing on site because of the farming and whatnot. If they'd used that, it would be a different story altogether, maybe. But certainly, as things are, I think we're right in refusing planning permission. Anybody otherwise minded? No. Okay, Claire.
Okay, thank you. Chair, I can confirm that the LRB have agreed to uphold the decision of the appointed officer and refuse the application for the same reasons as stated in the papers.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you, colleagues. Can we move to agenda item 5, notice of review, refusal of planning permission for erection of lean-to storeroom to west elevation of existing garage at 17 Longside, Ecclefechan. Planning reference number 21/0933/FUL. Thank you. Claire?
Thank you, Chair. I was just making sure our independent planning advisor was on the call. We're changing them. That's Mr. Duncan on the call now.
Fine, thank you.
So I'll take you through the papers for item 5. Item 5 being 17 Langside Ecclefechan refusal planning permission for erection of lean to storeroom to west elevation of existing garage 210933 full. You have the usual papers in your pack, being notes of review, report and handling, observation of the appointed officer, planning application form, decision notice, the relevant extracts from the local development plan 2, photos of the application site and locality. Grounds of refusal are that the proposed extension is considered unsympathetic to the existing, as it would break the front building line, compromise the symmetry of the existing frontage of the terrace, and have a detrimental effect on the character of the original dwelling house and the street scene. It would also result in an unacceptable loss of amenity space available for front garden grounds and result in overdevelopment of the plot. As such, the application is contrary to Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan Policy H8, alterations and extensions to houses and supplementary guidance, alteration and extensions to dwellings. Questions of method of determination is, for this case, that it be an assessment of the review documents only with no further procedure. The grounds on the notice of review are, in summary, the lean-to store will not adversely affect the street scene due to the unusual layout of the location. The property is at the end of the row. The lean-to store is not overly large. The development plan policies are Development Plan 2, OP1, H8 and LDP2, supplementary guidance, alterations and extensions to dwellings. Main issues for the LRB to consider: does the proposal comply with the terms of the development plan in principle? In particular, does the proposal meet the terms of LDP2 policies OP1 and H8? Further, turning in detail to the detail of the submission and the stated reasons of refusal, would the proposal be unsympathetic and detrimental to the character of the original dwelling house and street scene? Would the proposal result in an unacceptable loss of amenity space available for front garden ground? Would the proposal result in an overdevelopment of the plot? If it is not considered that the proposal accords with the terms of the development plan, are there a set of material considerations of sufficient weight to justify a departure from the terms of the development plan? If so, what reasons would the members wish to give for such a decision if it was considered that the proposal departs from the terms of the development plan? The members are minded not to uphold the appointed officer's decision and instead grant planning permission for this proposal. What set of conditions and reasons the members wish to see attached, if any? And if members are instead minded to vary the terms of the appointed officer's decision, what changes to the specific reasoning for the decision would be required? So again, you've got the same options as outlined to you previously, so I won't repeat all of those. And as just stated earlier, you've got an independent planning advisor present for this item who's not had any involvement in this case. So, and again, you've also got your solicitor present. So if members are clear, I'll ask the chair again to lead the debate and again lead you through the papers to decide if you have sufficient information to make a determination today.
Thank you, Claire. Can we see the photographs, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to talk to the slides. Just for the avoidance of doubt, these are exactly the same as you have in front of you on pages 161 to 165. So looking at the first picture, this is a view of the dwelling house approach from the west. Now, this has been taken from Google Street View. You'll see the van in the foreground and it's got a couple of ladders on the roof. The location of the extension is just above where you see the ladders on the roof of that van. So you've got the existing street scene, you've got an extension on the gable end of that dwelling house. The proposed extension is coming forward of that, so towards the viewer, just next to the trampoline that you can see there with the netting.
So just moving on, here, Robert. The house, is that the White House in the distance, or is it the cottage? Yes. So what yes.
Yes, it's the one just above the van.
Thank you. Anybody
So
else? Any
next slide.
questions on that? No? No, okay, Robert, sorry.
That's okay. So the next slide, you can see the trampoline. This is closer now, so you get a sense of the front garden area and the surrounding street scene. I think the key things to note here are the property's already been extended. You can see that roller door at the new gable end. So there's an existing extension there. You've got quite a small front garden area there defined by that low red brick wall. You've got a fairly intact frontage and building line on both of these blocks as you look at it at the moment. The proposed extension again would be coming forward from the front of that garage extension to the edge of that front garden area defined by the wall. So looking at the third slide, this seems to be the same as the last one, so I'll flick on to the next one. These are slides provided by the applicant. Now this is showing the front garden area. It's actually a fence, it's not a wall. I have to confess I've not been out to this site. But you can see the location where the trailer is the location of the proposed extension. So it'll be a lean-to extension coming out and covering that area that the applicant is pointing to in his picture. Looking at the next slide, this is the existing side elevation from the street at the moment with that roller shutter door open. You can see that fence which defines the front garden area, and the lean-to extension would be located where the trailer is situated at the moment. And moving on to the next slide, this is a view of the rear curtilage of the site. So the proposed extension is round the opposite side of that garage extension with the roller shutter door at the moment, and the existing rear garden area is the area that has the extension and a couple of canopies in it in this picture as well. I'm happy to answer any questions. I have to say I haven't been out to visit this site personally, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Just in that last photograph there, Robert, is that a footpath between that white canopies and the housing? Is there a footpath up through there?
Yes, I think it is. I think it's to provide access to the rear of the other properties.
I've just looked at this other the grey fence. There's a slight. Looks as if there's a small path there, but it's very narrow. Okay, Robert, that's fine. Anybody else? Any questions for Robert? No? Okay. Can we start to go through the papers, please? Notice of review, date the 10th of November 2021. Submitted by D&G Architectural Services agents on behalf of Mr. J. Stewart's applicant. Received on 11th of November 2021. Let's go through the pages. If you've any questions, just give us a shout. Page 115, report on handling. Determined under delegated powers and related correspondence. Page 121, erection of lean-to storeroom to west elevation of existing garage. So letter. And page 123, an internal memo. Page 125, observation of appointed officer on the applicant's agent's notice of review. Page 129, planning application form submitted on the 4th of May 2021, associated plans and supporting information. In page 137, you've got a drawing of where the extension is proposed. In page 139, similar plans. Page 141, associated drawings indicating the sort of layout. Sorry, Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was just in relation to your earlier question about the fencing. I hadn't really given you an answer to that one, but when I look now at the site plan, or the block plan that was submitted on the 2nd of June, I can see that from the viewpoint the picture was taken, on the right-hand side where you see the fences, those are the rear gardens of 19, 21 and 23, and the footpath that you did see does in fact give access to the rear of the properties along there. So it was just to clarify that point. When I saw the block plan come up, I thought it was probably the opportune moment just to give that advice. Thanks, Chair.
That's fine, thanks very much. Right, page 145, decision letter from Dumfries and Galloway Council dated 11th of August 2021. Section 6, relevant extracts from the Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan 2, page 153. And page 161 with the photos of the application site and the locality. That's one we've already seen. Okay, anybody any comments they want to make? Certainly to me it looks quite overwhelming actually. Although the drawing has a sloped roof and it looks, could be said if it was on its own, it would look quite nice, but given the surroundings, I would suggest it's not very appropriate. Anybody want to comment? No. Hey, Stephen Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No, it was just to say that again. I think I think we've got enough information in front of us today to make a determination.
That's fine. If
we're ready to do that.
Yeah. But based on that, I think I would be willing to move that we refuse the application. Does anybody want to second me? Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware of the location as it's in my ward in Ecclefechan, and it is a sort of slightly unconventional layout of buildings as it is, but yeah, I think for the reasons given in the report and the determination already there, I think I'd be happy to uphold that original decision of the planning officer.
All right, thanks very much, Stephen. Is anyone otherwise minded? Okay, and can I say to the officer that we agree that we refuse this application for the erection of the lean-to storeroom at the west elevation of the existing garage 17 Longside Echofechem, planning reference 21/0933/FUL. Okay, Claire?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just to confirm again, I can confirm the LRB have upheld the decision of the appointed officer and refused the applications for the same reasons as stated in the papers.
Thank you very much. Well, can I thank you all for your attendance and your participation. I have no other business deemed urgent due to the need for a decision. The next meeting date is Thursday, the 10th of March, 2022. So thank you all for your attendance, and you can now go home and get a cup of tea or coffee.